a brilliant intellectual.
As am I.
The two of us are sick and tired of dealing with troglodytes and have moved into a bomb shelter so we don't catch the stupid.
To stay sharp, we spend our days pursuing the pastime of true intellectuals, debunking YouTube videos.
We are the Debunkers.
So what should we debunk this week?
Scroll back up. I saw a video entitled, "A Better Way to Tax the Rich."
If the answer isn't by not doing it, then it's going to need a debunking.
This is a chart of the wealth of every single American household. That includes cars, houses, yachts, jewelry, and even cold hard cash. It also includes things we owe other people, like student loans. So let's take a quick tour of American household wealth. We can start over here, where we see people who owe way more than they have. As we move further right, we can see, oh, that's me. And there's my doctor, who owns an expensive home. And there's former heavyweight boxer Mike Tyson. But when we get to the very richest people in the world, oh hey, it's Beyonce. We can zoom out so far that this chart looks like a stick, and we still can't see the top of their wealth. Because these people are so much wealthier than the rest of us.
Well, given that debt is included, that would mean a person with a single dollar is above a significant percentage of the population, meaning this isn't an accurate measurement of quality of life, or even necessarily poverty.
In other words, this chart doesn't just show wealth, it shows the staggering wealth inequality we have in America. But recently, politicians have been talking about an idea that's never been done before in America. To even out wealth, we should tax it.
Revolutionary! Where have I heard that before?
Also, one has to demonstrate that income inequality is an issue to be solved in the first place. According to the data, not only are the rich getting richer, but the poor are getting richer as well. The rich simply get rich more quickly, hence why the inequality is created. But if everyone's quality of life is increasing over time, why is this an issue?
Yes, and while one might argue that the proper level of taxation could result in everyone becoming more rich at the same rate, they would have quite a bit of work ahead of them in the way of proving that this would not only be the case, but that wealth would continue to grow at an equivalent rate, neither of which is even remotely borne out by the data.
In January, Senator Elizabeth Warren proposed something called a wealth tax.
Thanks, I hate it.
This was a big deal. Because this doesn't typically get taxed.
And yet the top 10% of income earners still pay 90% of the income tax. Amazing, isn't it?
Most of the taxes we pay only happen when money changes hands. Like when we earn money or spend money. But according to Warren, here's the problem with that. This bar represents my wealth, and this is my friend's wealth. I think he owns a yacht.
Yachts are a human right.
But because both of us have the same job and earn about the same amount of money, our income gets taxed about the same.
Which is obviously terrible. He should be forced to liquidate his assets and give some percentage of it to the government.
Yes, also, if you and your friend are making the same amount of money and yet he has a higher net worth than you, perhaps this is because he manages his wealth more responsibly than you do? Why should he be punished for that? If you spend all of your money frivolously while he denies himself short-term gratification in order to save and invest, why should he be punished for that? Why would we want to disincentivize this kind of behavior?
Two people who may have the same income, but are in wildly different economic circumstances.
So to fix it, Warren wants to tax the actual wealth people have, but only for the very, very rich.
Unbelievable. The top 1% is already paying more in income tax than the bottom 90% combined. They are pulling more than their own weight, and yet you seem obsessed with finding new ways to punish them and take even more of what they have rather than doing your job and getting spending under control. How selfish of them to pay the vast majority of the taxes in this country but keep the assets they've purchased with what was left over after they paid said taxes. Don't they know there are hundreds of superfluous government programs in need of being dreamt up and funded?
Indeed. Do you know how this ends? It ends with the rich investing in other countries instead of ours because any assets they own in the US will be subject to this tax.
Here's her proposal. All the wealth above this line, $50 million, would be taxed at 2% each year. All the wealth above this line, $1 billion, would be taxed at 3%. So if you have $40 million, you'd pay nothing.
Oh.
If you have $60 million, you'd pay nothing on your first $50 million, but 2% on the $10 million after that.
Oh, the government is introducing a new tax which is only going to marginally affect the wealthy alone? Where have I heard that before? I'm sure it won't expand.
Yes, also interesting how this plan, which was just pitched moments ago as a method of fighting income inequality, would only consist of taking a minuscule percentage of what is owned by the extremely rich. This plan would either do nothing to fight against income inequality, or an aggressive expansion is planned.
Or $200,000. And if you have $2 billion, you'd pay about $49 million.
Which the government would spend in 7 minutes. No, I'm not joking. In fact, they could take all of that $2 billion and it would last them less than 5 hours. That's how out of control government spending is. So maybe instead of whining about how much the rich have, we should be concerned with how much the government spends and how much debt it's saddling us with, which is the inevitable result of their aversion to financial responsibility regardless of what our tax rates are.
So what would happen if we imposed Senator Warren's tax?
The rich would do everything they could to find legal loopholes and invest less in our economy. Wealth creation would be disincentivized. The program would very likely begin to expand in order to tax other groups, and if the revenue brought in was anything more than negligible, the government would blow it on needless spending and possibly even expand to the point where it would now become dependent on this new tax. And there would be no net benefit, but less money would be circulating in the private sector. Am I in the ballpark here?
Well, only the richest 0.05% of Americans would pay this tax.
For now.
But in 2016, the government could have raised about $200 billion from it.
Which they would have blown in less than a month.
That could pay for a plan that makes public college tuition free 3 times over.
Ignoring the implication that our university system wouldn't be sabotaged by state funding the same way K through 12 was, why is the onus on the private sector to support new state programs when the government is the entity which fails to spend responsibly? You don't think it's possible that a government which spends $4 trillion per year and has a $1 trillion annual deficit might just have $200 billion worth of money it's spending unnecessarily, which could be diverted to a program as supposedly beneficial as college for all?
It could pay for all federal food assistance programs, like food stamps, 2 times over.
Yay! The war on poverty would expand and further cripple the underclass.
It could get close to cutting child poverty by 60%.
Assuming the Bennett-Brown plan is in any way practical or would achieve its stated goal.
These are massive programs that would help millions of people.
Well, if the government could do all of these amazing things with $200 billion, imagine what they could do with $4 trillion. Oh wait, the federal government spends that, and it does it so irresponsibly that we have a net deficit, and it needs to take even more of our wealth despite the fact that the current budget is nearly 1/4 of GDP overall.
Clearly, the solution is to hand over even more of our economy.
Hey folks, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy the content that we're producing here at FreedomToons and would like to see us continue with the weekly uploads, please consider donating at subscribestar.com/FreedomToons. Or if you need to use PayPal, at freedomtoons.tv/#/donate.
After all, you don't want that money being taxed, do you?